This video, we're going to start our road to the Texas Revolution, and we're going to look at some early trouble that happened in Texas between the Texans and the Mexican government. Some of this will be a little bit of review from the end of the last unit or chapter. So, if you'll remember, we talked about the Fredonian Rebellion a little bit. So just to kind of recap, the Fredonian Rebellion happens near Nacogdoches in 1826. There's a dispute basically over land grants between Hayden Edwards and the original Mexican settlers. And so, in other words, it's Hayden Edwards and then becomes versus the Mexican government. And so then Hayden Edwards decides, you know what, I'm going to declare the Republic of Fredonia independent of Mexico. He's been given a land grant, and now he is kind of betraying that and saying, well, no, instead, this is an independent nation. Um, the result is that the rebellion is put down by Mexico and a Texian militia. So Stephen F. Austin is definitely against this Fredonian rebellion. He knows this is going to cause problems. He makes it clear to Mexican officials that he does not support this, and his colonists don't support it, and they actually put together a militia to help put this Fredonian rebellion down. But that's not going to be enough. Mexico, after this rebellion takes place, they're like, well, what is going on in Texas? They need to really find out what's happening here because this is a really bad sign. And so they send Mir Ibn Turan on a commission to basically find out and write a report about what's going on there. And in his report, he basically comes back and looks, hey, U.S. influence in Texas is growing. Mexican influence is very small. There's Anglos outnumber Mexicans 10-1. Many of them are ignoring laws, and Mexico must regain control of Texas. They really feared that Mexico would be lost. And so the response to this report by the Mexican government is the law of April 6th, 1830. And they want to regain control of Texas. And that's the purpose here. So kind of the key elements of this, because once again, this should be review. There's no more immigration from the United States. They canceled all unfulfilled impresarial grants, and encouraged Mexican and European immigration. So they want people continuing to move to Mexico, but they want to make sure to Texas, but they want to make sure they're coming from Mexico or Europe, and no longer from the United States. Slaves could no longer be brought into Mexico, including Texas. And that's been the case in the rest of Mexico. And they're saying, hey, we're really going to try to start enforcing this. They established new forts, and they place custom duties or taxes on all goods that enter Texas from the United States. So that's the law of April 6, 1830. The Texas response. Well, they felt they were wronged by the Mexican government. They felt the law went too far and took away the states' rights from the Constitution of 1824. So they felt like it was an overreaction to the rule in Mexico. They didn't need to go this far. Smaller, corrections could be made. Something else to understand here in the early 1830s, there's this turmoil in Texas, but there's also there's political parties and politics going out and in the rest of Mexico that Texas is a part of. So in the early 1830s, there were really two political groups struggling for power in Mexico. There was the Centralists that wanted a strong central government that would be more dictatorial, more power for the central government. The states would have less say. And then there were the Federalists, and they wanted the states to have more power than the central government. So the Federalists supported the Mexican Constitution of 1824. The Centralists wanted to centralize power in Mexico City. The Texans supported the Federalists, who were led by, interestingly enough, Santa Anna. Santa Anna is a supporter of the Federalist and supporter of that Constitution. Well, in 1832, Mexico has a civil war and that civil war is won by the Federalists, and Santa Anna, who had been the general in the Mexican army, is elected president of Mexico. So in Texas, they're pleased with this. Of course, we know that things may not stay that way, but at this time, things seem to be moving in the right direction as far as the government in Mexico is concerned, as far as Texans are concerned. But during that same time that problem was going on, things got worse in Mexico when they sent Officer Captain Juan Davis Bradburn to enforce the law of April 6, 1830. Bradburn is a centralist. He supports this idea of a stronger central government, so he uses his authority more powerfully. Um, there's a dispute basically there, and Patrick Jack and William Barrett Travis, are arrested, and they're not charged with a crime. They're held without being charged. And then this upsets many Texans, and so they go and they form kind of this militia, and they go to the Mexican fort where the prisoners are being held, and they demand them be released. Bradburn refuses. Well, while they're waiting this out, the settlers wrote something called the Turtle Bayou Resolutions, and a resolution is a firm decision taken by a group of people. Okay, and in these resolutions, they say, they say that the Texans said that Mexico was not following their own constitution, and they asked for reforms or changes in the government. Okay, so this is before Santa Anna has been elected. This is kind of going on at the same time as the Mexican Civil War is going on between the Centralists and the Federalists. So the Texans make it clear they're loyal to Mexico. They insist they aren't rebelling. Instead, they're putting their full support behind Santa Anna because he promised to support the Texans' suggested reforms. And so this is kind of what's going on. This is part of a broader kind of fight in a sense. At least that's how they are framing their support. They're framing it as supporting the Federalists. And so this is where we're going to stop for today. It's just kind of to get you to see the key point that I want you to understand is that what's going on in Texas is not an isolated event. It is part of a broader events going on throughout Mexico where there's this debate between the centralist and the federalist, and there's those that support a stronger central government. There's those that support the states' rights, and then in Texas, there's also kind of this third group that and in Texas, it's primarily those that are there's not really probably many centralists there, other than those people like Bradburn that have been sent by the Mexican government. But even not everybody in the Mexican government supports the centralists. So there's these two groups. There's the centralists and the federalists. And then in Texas, there's also this other group that are really ready to be no longer part of Mexico. People like Hayden Edwards. That's not everybody. Stephen F. Austin is not pushing for that. But there are groups of people that are ready for this to happen. And so as this fight takes place in Mexico between the centralists and the federalists, there's some in Texas that are going to try to take advantage of this opportunity where there's a little bit of chaos, and see if they can take advantage of that to create something different in Texas, like a independent Texas or make Texas a part of the United States. Not everybody is like that. Stephen F. Austin is not looking to do that. Many other leaders aren't, but there are some, and some of these people may gain more support as things continue. So this is kind of the big question. What's going to happen next? What's going to happen in Mexico? What's going to happen with their government? And how is that going to impact Texas? And so there's big questions still to come and to be answered as we look at the road to revolution and the road to the Texas Revolution.